All right. So the RFK came out and dropped his information yesterday, and it was long, and we're still sorting through some of it. We're still vetting some of it. However, uh, the big news was that they did a study, and it was over vaccinated kids versus unvaccinated kids. And I have a couple of little issues with the study, but it is what it is. Um, what they found was that in a lot of these cases, the vaccinated children were 4 to 5 times, they had 4 to 5 times more chronic diseases, ADHD, neurodevelopment, autism, all these things. They had 5 times more than unvaccinated kids. So when we look at, oh, the food's a problem, and it is, and the dyes are a problem, and they are, and the stuff in the water and the air and the chemtrails are all, yes, those are. However, if the only variable you look at is vaccinated versus unvaccinated, the vaccinated kids are 5 times more unhealthy. They've got 5 times more asthma, gut issues, allergies, ADHD, depression, autism, all those things. And you have to think to yourself, well, why didn't this study come out earlier? I mean, it was done a long time ago, and there's lots of other studies that have been done like this. And when doctors and pediatricians do these studies, they lose their licenses. Like when these pediatricians are like, hey, I've got a big practice, and we've got all these people who are asking not to vaccinate, and all these people who are asking to vaccinate. Why don't we just observationally put a little mark next to people who are unvaccinated and look at, after you get 1,000 kids or 2,000 kids who are unvaccinated, and you're a pediatrician, you go, I'm going to watch these kids for the next decade. I just do a little comparison, because there's software that does that for us. I don't know if you know this, but as doctors, there's ways that, even if you're not a research doctor, you can literally pit your patients against each other and be like, this protocol worked better than that protocol. It's not super expensive. Then you can apply it to old medical records. So these studies are easy to do. And when doctors find this out and they point it out, they lose their license. Del Bigtree's got a guy on right now who is the same thing. One of the reasons that some of the pediatricians wouldn't speak out is because they knew they'd lose their license. I've got multiple pediatric friends who, when they started cutting back, allowing patients to come in and not get vaccinated, they got called down to the board to Austin. And they had board, the Texas Medical Board was like, you're going to lose your license because you're harming the public. And one of them, they told her to set aside 5 days, that all this evidence, all these things. In day one, her attorney was like, take down the invoice where you spent $100,000 in vaccines last year. And she took it in, she sat down, she's like, this is the receipt for what I spent on vaccines last year. And they looked at it and they went, case dismissed, you can go home. That was it. Now, why is this? Now, the big question is that, yes, okay, we're seeing, we've been talking about this for a long time. Why is it? Well, let's take a look at this. If you are and I realize how horrible this sounds. You're like, no one would poison children just to make money. Guys, look at the sex trafficking. People are kidnapping babies, kidnapping children, selling them to be raped every single day. And we know that's a thing, but we're still willing to sit back and be like, no. No one would poison children just to make money. Well, because here's the thing. You will spend money on your kids you would never even consider spending on you. And they know that. And so that's why they're poisoning your children, so that you'll spend more money. So think of it this way. If you have someone who's selling a product and you're paying them commission because you're going to make 60, 70, 80% on that product. And so you're willing to pay them commission. Why would the insurance companies, and remember, insurance companies make money because of pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, insurance companies make money on the drugs that they get prescribed to you because the insurance companies are actually selling you the drugs that they're then using your insurance money to pay for. I realize how silly that sounds. Look it up. It's absurd. This should 100% be illegal, but it's not. And then they turn around and they pay pediatricians $80,000 to $250,000 per provider per year in order to make sure that they're fully vaccinated. Now, if you're an insurance company and you're trying to save money or you're trying to make money selling drugs, which is really where they make all their money, is selling the drugs, what are you trying to do? You're trying to increase the amount of sales you get. Well, how do you do that? You make people sick. You poison them on purpose. The reason that these reports are suppressed, the reason that these things, the doctors who talk about this are lose their licenses, are disbarred, are kicked out of the system, are put in prison, whatever it is because they don't want anybody to recognize the game they're playing. The game the medical system is playing is, if we can create chronic illness and then sell the treatment for that chronic illness, we can make money on both sides of this. We make more money the more drugs we sell. We can only sell drugs if people are sick. So what do we need to do? We need to make more sick people. That is the purpose of vaccines. It is not to make you healthy. It is not to make the society better. It is to make society sicker so that they can sell you the drugs. Now, I realize that this is absurd. This is conspiracy. This is horrible, terrible. Think about it. Just think about it. For the past 50 years, the amount of vaccines we've been forced to take have been gone up and up and up and up. And our chronic health has gotten worse and worse and worse. And we're spending more and more and more on it. The whole point is to keep you and your kids as sick as possible so that you'll buy as many drugs as possible so you can fund and feed this system. That's 100% what this is. You look at measles and we're like, if you get the measles, you'll die. Oh! Measles is not a big deal. If you get the measles, 99% you're going to be fine. The vast, vast majority of people are fine. Just kind of like the chicken pox. The measles isn't going to kill you. A lot of the things that we're being vaccinated against aren't going to kill you. Why do you think they vaccinate every single baby with everything they can as fast as they can? We're going to give them hepatitis B shots. You can test the mother. In 90% of these cases, these aren't heroin addict prostitutes who roll in off the street who nobody's ever seen before. The vast majority of people who are pregnant are going and getting checked here and there. You can pull their blood the entire time. You can pull their blood when they get to the hospital to have the baby. You'll have the reports of Hep B back before the baby is born or before they leave the hospital. You can vaccinate them then. Or you can get the report back, see it, and their pediatrician or primary functional care doctor can give it to them later. The reason that we're giving children vaccines is to make them sick so that they can propagate a system and hold up a system where, we need a system that needs people to be sick to sell them the drugs. That's what's actually going on. And if nobody else is going to call that spade out, I'll call it out for you first. Now, hopefully somebody else will come out and corroborate that. And I realize that how unbelievably terrible that sounds. However, that's where we are. That's it. Now the research is actually out. Now there's actual research. And so now when your doctor says over the research, you should not get vaccinated because the research shows that the vast majority of people who are vaccinated are substantially sicker, have lifelong chronic illnesses that they will most likely, there's a good chance some of them will never get better from, that were caused on purpose by the vaccines. That's what the research is actually showing us. So there you go. We have actual research now, and the actual research that's out shows that vaccines are causing substantially more harm than they're causing benefit. That's what we're seeing. And that's what we've been saying for a long time. And I'd like to point this out before it starts getting crazy in the functional medicine. The vast majority of chiropractors have been on this from the get-go. The vast majority of chiropractors have been like, vaccines are poison. We need to start exercising. We need to watch our food. We need to get back to nature. This has been our thing. Some people are like, we were a chiropractor. I am, and I'm very proud of that fact because we were able to stand up to everybody else and be like, you guys are wrong. You guys are doing healthcare wrong. We've been saying it for a long time. We've been called quacks. We've been ostracized. We've been all sorts of horrible, terrible things been said about us. But guess what? We were right the entire time. And those who listen to us are healthier for it. And so this is the thing. This is where medicine is taking you. They are literally poisoning your children with the foreknowledge that it's going to create these problems in the hope that you will then turn back to the medical model and then then you will pay them to solve the problem they created. And doesn't that sound like government creating a problem so that you'll ask them and beg them for the solution? That's what it is. And that's where we are. So, and that's what RFK is uncovering, and that's why people are getting super scared and super angry because this is a governmental cover-up that is not a doctor thing. This is a government thing. This is a CDC, NIH, FDA, those guys. Those are the guys who put this together in conjunction with the pharmaceutical companies. That's where we're at. This is why they said the FDA has to do everything. Like, oh, the FDA has to approve all these different things, and you can't just use stem cells. You can't just use peptides. You can't just use hormones unless the government says it's okay for you to put it in your body. Because guess what happens whenever the government is no longer in control of your body? You can put whatever you want to in it. You can put into it whatever your doctors are telling you, and then you'll get healthy. Because guess who's making the vast majority of the money off this? It's not the docs. Trust me, it is not the doctors. It's the politicians, and it's the guys at the top of the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, and those guys, and the pharmaceutical groups and the insurance companies and things like that. Those are the people who are making these decisions, and it's also people who are making the money off of it. So that's it. It's a small group of people who are choosing to poison your children. You know, it's guys like Gates who specifically said in his TED Talk that they wanted to use vaccines to reduce the population of the planet by 15%. So that's, you know, that's what you're up against. That's what's going on. So if you guys are wondering what the crux of this is and why this is such a big deal, the reason it's such a big deal is because the evidence is coming out that the medical system is intentionally poisoning you in order to create long-term problems that you've got to take long-term drugs for, so that they can then own you from that point forward, and you'll pay them, you know, ridiculous amounts of money for the rest of your life. That's what this is, and that's what's being exposed. And so if no one's pointed that out, that's the reason this is such a big deal. It's not that it goes, oh, well, you know, all right, well, we'll tweak the vaccines. Maybe we'll take thimerosal out, and we'll do this and we'll do that. Guys, thimerosal wasn't in there as a preservative. It was there specifically to mess you up. They knew what it was. That's why that video about all vaccines are poison that Trump posted, that's why that's such an important deal. They've known thimerosal was going to do this the entire time. That's why it was in there. The vaccines were not designed to help you. The vaccines were designed to hurt you. That's what the point of the vaccines are. They're designed to weaken your body, give you chronic diseases, so that then you have to pay the medical group to deal with those diseases. That's what this is. That's why this is such a big deal. And people are like, no, you're crazy. That's not what's going on. That's 100% what's going on. What other conclusion can you draw? Because if these were really to make you healthy, if these really keep you healthy and safe, all the research in the world would have been done on these things to make sure they were as safe as possible and effective as possible. However, anytime research was done to show that these things might have a problem with them, those doctors were sometimes killed. They lost their licenses. Like, go back and research this whole, like, the history of vaccine hesitancy. Research the vaccine, you know, the doctors who have been up against vaccines, and look what happened to them. They were called quacks. They had their licenses pulled. They were put in prison. They were sued. They were murdered. All of these things. And this is legitimately what happened. So when you're talking about, well, why didn't the doctors come out and say anything? That's why. And we all knew it. Like, a lot of the docs on my side, on the functional medicine side, and the guys who were like, these vaccines are pretty bad. Like, when I go out and I talk about diabetes, when I talk about this stuff, I've had a lot of my doc buddies be like, you're crazy. Someone's going to kill you. Well, that's where it is. That's how big of a deal this is. So if you guys are just like, oh, it's just in the news, it's just another thing, it's not just another thing. Like, this should destroy the entire medical system. And I hope it does. Because we have a lot of phenomenal medical doctors who just want to help people. And if they got the right information, they could do a hell of a lot of good. These guys are really smart and they're really talented. And if we could just give them the right information, that'd be great. Like, the best computer program in the world with bad information is going to give you the wrong answers. That's why if you ask ChatGPT or any of the AIs any questions about health, they're going to give you the wrong answers, because the vast majority of the things they're pulling from are medical stuff that has been made up on purpose. Like, there's reports coming out now that over 50% of all research is done in a way that is fraudulent, is biased. It is there to show positive function where there is no positive function. It's there to, you know, hide the negative things that are in drugs, because guess who pays for all the research? Pharmaceutical companies. So they're gonna have that research say whatever it is they want it to say. So that's why this is such a big deal. Like, people are like, oh, you know, well, maybe we'll just get less vaccines, or maybe we'll just, like, no, what this is actually showing isn't about vaccines. This is about the fact that this is like the cover up of the world, the cover up of the century. Your medical system is poisoning you so that you'll buy more of their product because of the damage that the poisons have done to you. And they do it to you before you even recognize it. So they do it to you when you're a baby. So when you're 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 years old and you go, oh, I've got type 1 diabetes, I've got ADD, I've got autism, I've got asthma, I've got allergies, I've got this, I've got that. And they go, well, that's just because your body's tore up. Your body's not, it wasn't, it's, your genetics. Or, yeah, we're seeing a lot of that lately. It's just a normal thing. It's a normal thing because you force vaccinated everybody. You get poisoned everybody. And so, yeah, you're going to see a lot more of these things. So that's why this is such a big deal. That's why like the medical system is freaking out. And that's why you guys should be pissed, because we've been trying to tell you for a long time, had it not been for Trump and had it not been for RFK, we'd be forced vaccinated with COVID. We'd be forced vaccinated with everything else they could come up with. And remember, there were 25 other mRNA vaccines that were about to get pushed through that RFK stopped. So all the damage from that COVID vaccine, it wasn't because it was the COVID vaccine. It was because of the base mRNA technology they were using. And they're about to shift all the vaccines to mRNA. Why? Because it messes you up and poisons you worse. Overpopulation is one of the things that these guys are talking about. That was the whole point of Bill Gates' 2008 TED Talk, was that the elites view the problem, the major problem to them is there's too many of us. There's the overpopulation is their biggest issue. So killing us, making us sick, is their primary goal. Making some money off of it would be great. So that's really where this whole thing is. And that's how we need to be start looking at this thing. So take a look at that. Think about that. Share this with your friends so they can start to understand it. A lot, like anybody who you think might be up for this, share this video with them so they can kind of understand where we're at, because we need more people pissed off about this. We need more people supporting RFK and supporting the people that he's working with. We need more people to recognize that when we do see an outbreak of COVID or measles or whatever, and the news media and the medical industry is like, well, this is because we didn't, they scared people away from vaccines and less people start taking vaccines. And so now this thing happened. That's probably trash, because we know that vaccines aren't helping us. We know that they're hurting us. So any black flag event down the road that's like, oh my gosh, this horrible deadly disease broke out because we weren't vaccinating enough, recognize the lie and understand where we're at, because this is a giant fight. This is a multi-trillion-dollar organization who also wants less people on the planet. So keep that in mind, so you understand kind of exactly where this fight really is. So you guys have any questions, questions at chalmerswellness.com, or drop in the DMs. We'll see you guys later. This fight is just getting started. Now that people are starting to get the information and people are starting to get pissed, now is when you're going to start seeing the big information campaign swing from the other side. You're going to see influencers paid off. You're already starting to see these influencers paid off. Be like, seed oils aren't that bad, and removing dyes isn't that big of a deal. Like, these guys are getting paid because the FDA is worried they're going to start losing the ability to advertise on normal TV. Now they're going to some of these health influencers. And if they pay them enough, they'll say whatever they're told to. So that's kind of where we're at. So just kind of start watching this stuff, see where things are going. But this is where the fight's picking up. It's not ending. All right. If you guys have any other questions to this up, have a fantastic day.